Siomra
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Collecting Issues, your bi-weekly podcast taking a look at all things graphic novel. This week we'll be taking a look at Gideon Falls, Volume 1, The Black Barn, collecting issues 1 to 6 of Image's 2018 series by Andrea Sorrentino, Jeff Lemire and Dave Stewart.
Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics.
Dave Stewart, not from the Eurythmics, Dave Stewart, famous comic colorist Dave Stewart.
Shooby-dooby-doo-doo-doo. Ah.
Travel the world and the seven
very good.
seas.
Benjamin, Gideon Falls is our first horror comic book.
Horror. And we did it especially because tomorrow, by the time this podcast drops, is Halloween. Halloween is a spooky, scary skeleton.
Benjamin, the back of the book says horror/occult and supernatural. Do you think that is an apt description?
I think that's a pretty apt description. I think it's far less horror than I'd give it credit for. Far more paranormal, investigative, strange things are happening kind of stuff. There is some horror elements, but they're not entirely forward.
Well, it's not a big monster is coming to get you.
No, there's a big bloody barn coming to get you.
A big barn might get you.
A big barn might get you.
Or it might not get you.
Or
it might only be if you fall into it yourself or something.
Yeah.
It's more of a psychological horror than a...
Yeah, it's a very psychological fear. It's got some serious gothic tropes going on. We've got the unreliable narrators here and there. We don't know if it's collective madness, if it's actually a big, scary, spooky thing. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard. Do you buy into it? Do you not buy into it? Do we believe in the Black Barn? Do we not believe in the Black Barn? How does it work?
Give us a very quick breakdown of what's going on there.
Yeah, so Gideon Falls takes place in two primary locations. We've got living in the city.
The city.
Which is a Nutbush city limits.
It's not Nutbush.
Gideon Falls city limits.
Much better.
There we go. And we have the countryside town outside of Gideon Falls, which I think might be the actual Gideon Falls, because there's Gideon Falls, the city, and then there's the rural community outside of it.
Well, look, we're going to go straight away into spoilers here.
Yeah.
Because, if you're listening to this is I think you've misinterpreted, Ben. They're both Gideon Falls.
Okay.
There's a city called Gideon Falls, and there's a town called Gideon Falls. Mm. I think they're in different universes.
What?
Exactly. Because...
What?
Exactly, Ben. I think you've just had a realization there.
You've blown my mind.
Because
that fits perfectly.
We only find out that the city is called Gideon Falls on the last panel of the last page. We know that the countryside town is called Gideon Falls.
I've made a rubish move.
I think you have. Oh. And as it was going through, I was thinking...
My mind is actually blown, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very embarrassed.
Has this added to your enjoyment of the comic book in any sense?
I've enjoyed it much more now, Michael.
I would usually, Ben, be loath to interrupt you telling the plot of the comic, but I think you just... you've missed a major point there. Pretty early doors in this comic book.
Would you please, in that case, take over?
So, we follow... Basically, it's a parallel plot.
Yeah.
Where in one, we're following a man who lives in a city, and he's a madman.
Yeah.
And he is receiving some psychological help from a psychiatrist.
Yes.
Who in the movie version would be played by Lucy Liu.
Almost certainly, because I'm fairly certain Andrea Sorrentino took a great deal of inspiration from Madame Lucy Liu.
She might be a bit old now, Lucy, but never mind.
Look, we're not ageist here at the podcast, Michael.
He, Ben, is sifting through rubbish in the city.
Find some stuff.
And every now and then he becomes obsessed with finding specific bits of wood, bits of nail,
a rusty
hinges, planks, and he thinks that they are all from the Black Barn, a mysterious Black Barn that he has to build.
Yes.
And it just takes over his entire life.
Yep.
And of course no one believes him. They think he's a madman who's rooting through rubbish.
Bloody madman.
Until the psychiatrist, Belinda, also notices...
Dr. Zhu.
Dr. Belinda Zhu, yes. She notices that... Belinda's a funny name though, isn't it? She also notices that... sorry if anyone Belinda is listening.
Sorry.
She's walking through town one day and she sees the bloody barn.
The bloody black barn.
When you see the bloody black barn, Ben, everything goes red and there's a barn in front of you and you're not where you were before.
Biblical.
And you're like, oh, what the hell is that? And then it's back to normal life and you're like, what the hell just happened?
And
so
if
she
you're
sees
very unlucky, you see the figure in the black barn.
Oh God, get it away from me.
Spooky grinning man.
Yeah.
If you want a better representation of what that big spooky grinning man was, go back and listen to our Halloween episode where we talked about turnip heads.
Yeah,
very
scary.
Similar
very scary. So she comes to believe him anyway, and she helps him in his quest to reconstruct the Black Barn.
The Black Barn.
And meanwhile, we follow an entirely separate story where an alcoholic priest has been reassigned to a new town.
Yeah, no good.
And he finds himself in the middle of a kind of local conspiracy.
Murder mystery.
A murder mystery.
Occult murder mysteries.
Yeah. So he finds that his predecessor, who died, was a member of a kind of cult, not a cult, a secret society.
The Ploughman, Michael.
They call themselves the Ploughman Men, but they're the classic, any kind of classic, we're aware of the supernatural and we're fighting it in secret.
But we won't tell anybody else.
Exactly.
Because that'd be awful.
Supernatural has it. They're called the Men of Letters, aren't they? The Watchers from the Buffy the Vampire Slayer universe. But these are much more condensed in a local town.
Yeah, much more agricultural.
Yeah, very agricultural.
Nature.
Much more parochial.
Yeah.
So they're a parochial secret society. And the thing that draws the two stories together is that this mysterious black barn, which haunts, what's his name? Norton hears a who, yes. Horton sees a barn.
Norton sees a barn.
Horton sees a barn. So the same barn which haunts him also haunts this town.
Yeah.
And you might be just going for a walk in the back fields one day and you'll turn around the corner and holy moly,
Big feck off barn.
there's a big black barn there. And the people of the town think that this barn is responsible for any sort of creeping insidious evil that happens in the
Might
town.
sneak around the town.
Is due to the barn, including some disappearances, Ben. And I'm about to bloody blow your mind, Ben.
Go on. Oh, no, this one I kind of figured.
You figured this one yourself, did you?
Do you want me to take a guess at it? And then you'll have the joy of correcting me if I'm wrong.
Well, what I think is we learned that we have the sheriff.
Cassie.
She's a lady.
No, Clara.
Clara the sheriff lady.
The sheriff lady.
She's a hard-bitten cop. She doesn't believe in the supernatural. She's got no time for any of this nonsense. And the local doctor is her dad.
Yeah, but they don't talk, Michael.
They don't talk for some reason.
They don't talk for a particular reason.
They don't talk because when her brother was a young chap,
But a young lad.
he was taken away by the barn.
Yes.
And her dad believes in the barn and is determined to find it.
Yes.
And she believes in the rational and she thinks her dad has become a madman.
But
Ben,
what we find out about Norton is
yes,
that he appeared in the city mysteriously at 5 years of age.
Yes.
Right around the time when Clara's brother disappeared.
Why do you think that was, Ben?
Because I think Norton is probably her missing brother.
I think he might be, Ben.
Danny is what she calls him, but he doesn't know his actual name.
He doesn't know his
He
name.
was found
No.
with amnesia.
Yeah, what classic plot.
Amnesia.
So it looks like they are actually the same place.
Yes.
In different universes. And the Black Barn, despite being a horrific thing, is some sort of dimensional portway.
Yeah. We see that a lot more. There's a lot of build up to what the Black Barn actually is. It's much more sinister when it's all hearsay and glimpses. And then the father actually chases someone who's being infected by the Black Barn or influenced. I can't remember his name.
He's a hillbilly.
He's a hillbilly.
He's got classic,
Town outsider.
He's got the big grin.
Yeah.
Big
evil grin. And he's bloody killing people for the barn. He thinks he's been chosen by the barn.
If this was a movie, he would be played by a character actor.
An Alan Tudyk, perhaps?
No, I don't think so.
Tudyk's
I think
too
Alan Tudyk's
soft,
too
maybe.
soft. You need someone a bit more sinister.
A bit more sinister. Who do we get?
I'm not
Bill
sure.
Skarsgård? Would he do
No.
it?
Oh, well, I don't think Bill Skarsgård is hillbilly enough. Maybe a Norman Reedus.
Norman Reedus would be a good choice. Yeah. Anyway.
I forget his name.
We'll get on to that as we go along. But he's been chosen by the barn, or he thinks he's been chosen by the barn to be a real bad egg. And he murders one of the sheriff's deputies. And it all gets very occult very quickly, Michael. And it's the sinister influence of the barn kind of taking over. And we travel inside the barn, then he chases that because the hillbilly attacks Clara, and he goes inside the barn. And the barn is not nearly as sinister on the inside as it is on the outside. It's kind of a weird mixy thing where people seem to be forced to relive their trauma or their difficulties, I suppose. The priest seems to see a woman that he was once romantically involved with go through some serious pain, perhaps hinting at a miscarriage. I don't know. I couldn't really read that panel very well. And then we come across the wife of the murdered deputy, who was also murdered, and she says, "I know all your secrets." And it's very strange. It gets very 60s inside the barn. There's a lot of bright colours, a lot of aggressive colours.
The inside of the barn, there's a lot of people breaking apart into photos of themselves.
Yes.
The inside of the barn is very Grant Morrison's The Invisibles.
Very trippy.
It's
very
trippy. You see someone coming out of a comic book page.
Yeah, there seems to be some kind of engine running
it's-
inside the barn.
It becomes like, I think Grant Morrison's The Invisibles is a very good way of looking at it.
figuring this out.
Yeah.
I would say that without Andrea Sorrentino, the tone of the comic wouldn't be as strong as it is. I think he does a very strong job of building this consistent, bordering on Southern Gothic kind of vibe running throughout. I would argue, Michael, that True Detective was a huge influence on the visual style of this particular piece.
Wasn't True Detective about an evil barn?
Well, it's about an occult series of murders.
Right.
And they occasionally wander into a barn where an occult murder has taken place. The Yellow King, is what he's referred to as, which is a Lovecraft reference, which is almost certainly another influence here for this in a cosmic horror sense.
Very Lovecraftian, isn't it?
Lovecraftian.
I don't know, Ben, if it's Lovecraftian, the idea of walking around a corner and a building which isn't usually there is there. And it's evil.
I think...
Is that Lovecraftian? I don't think that's Lovecraftian.
It's also Lovecraftian in the fact that a small town is affected by this in such a big way.
I mean, a creeping horror in a small town. It's creeping horror. Have you written the words creeping horror?
I said the word creeping dread.
Creeping, that's horror and dread are almost synonyms.
Almost synonyms.
A creeping horror affecting a small town is very
Lovecraftian.
Now, Lovecraft probably wouldn't be an agricultural town like this. It would be a fishing town.
A fishing village.
Because
then you
would
could have some tentacles.
Tentacles, and everyone would have fishy eyes.
Yeah, which is very unsettling.
The leak slip look. No, not the leak slip, that's in Ireland. The Innsmouth look. Nothing wrong with people from leak slip.
The leak slip look is another problem. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, Andrea Sorrentino, he also has a very unusual texture running through every piece of the art. It looks like wood grain.
It does.
Because of a barn. Norton collects splinters of a barn. And a lot of his collection are splinters. Norton is also most definitely a madman. At some point, somebody breaks in and steals his collection of Black Barn artifacts.
Yeah.
And we never find out who that is in this 6-issue run.
No.
Or why they would rob his collection of...
I think it was him.
Black Barn. I think it possibly is as well. I think we have what's called a very unreliable narrator here, infecting people with his thoughts. In fact, having revealed to me that this is 2 separate locations at 2 different times leads me to believe
the same time.
It's possibly in his imagination. I don't know if the town of Gideon Falls is
real at all.
Someone's imaginary concept.
Oh, and Belinda Zhu is completely imaginary.
We don't know. We just don't know. We have seen Belinda Zhu be affected without Norton present.
That's true.
So that would lead me to believe it loses some of the credence of she wasn't real all along if she has an independent storyline where she has to find Norton. If she had appeared without that sequence where we see her see the barn, I would have said she's completely fictional. She's something that pushes his delusion more and more. But it's an interesting thing to see. But I think the Lovecraftian Innsmouth vibe is very present in Gideon Falls. Everybody seems to be living their own little Southern Gothic hell.
Yeah, but Southern Gothic, not very Lovecraft.
Yeah, not very Lovecraft, but very Lemire.
Very Lemire.
Lemire loves a bit of Southern. Him and Jason Aaron.
Very Jeff
loves
Lemire,
Southern Gothic.
Very Black Hammer.
Very Black Hammer.
Another thing about a barn.
Trapped just, and the big evil witch manipulating all the events.
Yeah, from an evil
shed. So we can see that a lot. But Andrea Sorrentino does a wonderful job, I think.
You see, this is where I'm going to differ. I was not enamored by... Now, let me break it down for you.
Go on.
Let me break it down for you.
Break it down for me.
Colours.
You going to rap?
Do you want me to rap?
Go on if you can. Break it down for me.
Break it down. Hold on. I'm going to tell you now. No, I'm not going to rap. The colours, Ben. Mamma mia, delicioso.
Okay, so you're a fan of the colours.
Colours, great.
Michael, dare I say that you're a fan of the colour palette?
The colour palette, as
I've affected him, ladies and gentlemen. I've incepted him. He's a colour palette fan.
Ben, I enjoy the colour palette for the tone that it sets.
Yes.
And I like the dark blues and reds and stuff of the city.
Teals?
And no teals. And then the kind of more agricultural colours of the countryside. There's
very good for tracking
golds and browns and stuff.
Tracking where we're living.
Exactly.
Where we're telling our tale.
And then when the Black Barn comes, it's just black and red and scratchy and
terrifying.
It's terrifying. Look at that thing. What's that thing's face?
It's quite good.
Turnip. It's good. I love that.
Unsettling.
I don't like the rendering of the characters, though.
Do you not, Michael?
I don't.
Why is that now?
I find them... I don't know what the technical term is, Ben. You're the guy for this.
Go on.
But I wish they were drawn more.
They are. It's much more shape design rather than finished rendered product.
Yeah.
So they're under-rendered.
Okay.
I feel what you're trying to go for.
Is that what I'm saying?
Almost impressionistic.
I wish someone would just draw the faces.
As opposed to the scratchy kind of... Yeah, Andrea Sorrentino, traditionally in most of his work, focuses very heavily on shape design and loose approximations of what a human being would be. He does it very well because you always know exactly what you're looking at.
Yeah, and I always knew who was who and
who
was you.
There's a lack of depth to the... I see what you did there. There is a lack of depth to some of the characterization, so I wouldn't disagree with you wholly there, Michael.
I mean, I can see the purpose it serves as well of being... Like, if this was rendered in a very cartoony style, it would take a lot of the impact away from it.
Absolutely.
So I can see the point, and in a lot of ways, I suppose it's a good thing that it made me a bit uncomfortable.
I think that's the intention.
Yeah, but it's not. It wasn't my favorite thing about it. It wasn't the rendering of the characters, but the design choices and stuff, fantastic. The spooky man in the barn looks familiar. I'm pretty sure I've seen that wide, gaping mouth, blank-eyed look before.
I think you've probably seen that, Michael, in various illustrations that accompany Creepypasta or
that's
SCP
what it is. Yeah.
Or any of those internet kind of collective fiction sites. I think this has been very heavily inspired by the kind of creeping horror that those websites have brought to a genre that is traditionally visible monster. One of the things that marks SCPs and
you're going to just very quickly, Ben, tell us what
SCP is a collective fiction project brought on by the internet, secure, contain, and protect, where various objects or entities are imbued with power. They're tracked down by a foundation that's very scientific, but the things themselves are quite horrific.
Yeah, but what is SCP? Like, not in the meta universe. What is it? Just
SCP is...
It's a website.
It's a website, sorry. It's a collective Wikipedia kind of website page where people are allowed to contribute their own fiction. Creepypasta would be very, very similar. Creepypasta is where people can write their own little horror stories and they get passed around. And the other one that's very popular at the moment is Reddit No Sleep, where people are given something like that. And Reddit No Sleep is closer to SCP, where we treat them as real life accounts. They're not fiction, but they are. Yeah. And I think Jason Aaron has been they have done wonders for the urban myth.
Jeff Lemire.
Sorry, who did I say?
Jason Aaron.
Sorry. Jeff Lemire, I think, has been very heavily influenced by that. And it's very much an urban myth kind of building process. And we often see illustrations like that because the key horror of a lot of those internet generated ones is the unknown. It's some big, sinister entity that's affecting people for no reason. It's just going about its big, sinister business. Now, the reason the Black Barn exists doesn't prompt anything here.
It doesn't come up in the first 6 issues.
The reason that anything is happening is not revealed in the first issue. And it's very mysterious. And it's just there to be sinister.
Yeah.
It's just there to mess around with stuff.
I don't know. I think it seems to be a portway between dimensions to me.
Yeah, but what does it require? Does it kill those children to feed the engine? Does it need...
I don't think it does kill them. It just spits them out on the other side.
Spits them out on the other side,
They wander in there and it spits them out on the other side.
They've just made the mistake of going in.
And I don't think this is pure speculation, but I don't think that it is sinister so much. It's not inherently sinister. It just drives people mad because it's such a breach of the laws of physics and reality.
So very traditional cosmic horror then.
Yeah, that was my reading of it anyway, Benjamin Colby.
I quite like your reading of it. In fact, I might like your reading even more than anything that I would have come up with.
What were you thinking of?
I just think it's something. I think you're going to have a character revealed as some kind of weird evil thing, but I think it's much more likely, Michael, now that you've explained all that to me, which I completely missed, Michael. I'm so embarrassed.
Because they're the same place, you see.
Yes.
Unless I'm wrong.
Well, I don't think you are, Michael. I haven't read ahead. So I think you're probably bang on, which is very, very insulting for me.
Yeah, very upsetting.
It's really hurt my ego. But I think you're absolutely right. I think maybe it's not a big sinister thing, especially because the art of issue 6, where we finally see inside the barn, is so radically different from the tone that was set. The horror kind of...
Even a bit of kind of mixed media look to it. I don't know if it is mixed media, but it looks...
Oh, no, I think it almost certainly is. I think you're absolutely right. There are so many influences going on here. And I think one of the ones that has been confirmed by Jason Aaron, one of the ones that he...
Jeff Lemire. Ben, this is basically a Jeff Lemire fan cast, and he keeps saying Jason Aaron.
Jeff Lemire has kind of come up with, and one of the things that he has cited as a direct influence was a song by Tom Waits called "What's He Building."
Oh, okay, go on there.
There's a really famous...
You can't play it, you're going to have to sing it.
I'm going to have to sing it. Luckily, Tom Waits doesn't sing this. It's almost like a piece of flash fiction.
What's flash fiction?
Flash fiction is very short fiction written in a page or less.
Oh.
Again, inspiring stuff like No Sleep and Creepypasta and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the key songs in this, on one of his albums, I think it's Swordfish Trombone, is What's He Building in there? And it's him as a neighbour describing being obsessed with what his neighbour is building in his house.
Oh.
So the key crux of it is, what's he building in there? He spends all day up and down, banging, making new things. What's he building? And it's basically a depiction of the neighbour going mad, trying to figure out what this guy is building in his house. And we never know what it is.
What is he building, though?
We never find out.
I want to bloody know, Ben.
But I'm not sure that's not how Jeff Lemire chooses to end this. I'm not sure if we're ever going to find out what's in the barn.
Oh, God damn it.
Which will sting massively. But we don't know.
But there seems to be some sort of dimensional engine in it.
It seems to be. But I think it comes back to what I said earlier. Unreliable narrator is the key thing. Norton is a madman.
Yeah.
I think the priest can't be trusted because he's a former alcoholic that's gone through some serious trauma. So we don't know if we can...
You can't trust a priest, Ben. That's your takeaway from
Well, that's my takeaway from anything to do with priests, Michael. But I am a 21st century Irishman.
Look, we've had our ups and downs.
Shame on you.
Send him to the barn.
Send him to the barn. Fuck. Anyway, moving on from there, we can't necessarily trust Clara or her father.
Because
they've lost someone.
They can't agree. They don't know what's going on.
The father may be going through serious trauma from losing his son.
He's got a big bushy beard.
And he's got a big bushy beard. And he retells the tale of how his son told him he had a nightmare and he didn't take it seriously.
Yeah.
So for all we know, that's a grieving father who's gone mad from grief.
Yeah, because the barn got him.
Clara wakes up from her experience not remembering the barn.
Yeah.
She says, I thought you were my Watson, to the priest who's trying to get her to remember the barn. She can't remember anything to do with it.
He's like, you were in the barn, you dumb...
Yeah, she says that he grabbed her, carried her away, and he tracked him down. So we don't know. Unreliable narrator, maybe the key term that pops
Is there even a barn, then?
Is there even a barn? I'm trying to find the bloody interview with Jason Aaron where he gave us other...
With who, sorry?
Jeff Lemire.
What's wrong with you?
I keep doing this.
Is this an alternate dimension where Jason Aaron has written this? Have I gone through
a tiny room, which is a rural town, but also...
A big city.
A big city. Bloody... Jeff Lemire. I'm so sorry. I'm going to keep trying to find this. You spin your wheels a bit more there, Michael.
Well, Ben, this is a comic that I have been very, very tangentially aware of for quite a while.
Because it gets so much praise.
It gets a lot of praise. And I always thought it was something to do with Little Gideon from Gravity Falls.
Little Gideon?
Because it's Little Gideon from Gravity Falls, and this is called Gideon Falls. I thought it was a spin-off.
We got very confused.
I was very confused. I was shocked to find this was a horror, supernatural horror.
Your good lady friend was very confused.
Not a light-hearted romp about characters from a children's TV show.
It is not.
It's not a light-hearted romp at all.
It is not.
It's dark and grim.
It is to be adapted, by the way. I forgot to mention.
Into what?
A TV series.
Starring Lucy Liu?
James Wan is attached to it as a producer.
Oh, that's a good choice, isn't it? Because a lot of what he says, for example, the scene where the young man tells his dad about the dream he's having and his dad kind of doesn't believe him was very similar to the scene in the movie Watch Out, There's a Spooky Ghost Behind You.
Sinister.
No, Insidious.
Insidious.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up with all
this. Insidious.
In the horror genre.
Do you remember the scene in Insidious? Probably the best jump scare of the last 15 years where...
He looks out the window.
No, the psychic lady is there and she's telling him about the dream he had and she saw the lipstick demon. Yeah. And then he appears briefly behind Night Owl Patrick Wilson. Yeah, and goes, "Ah!" And then everyone goes, "Oh, Jesus, he was there the whole time." This comic has that atmosphere.
Yeah.
It has the atmosphere that can be summed up with, and then I walked around the corner.
There's a big sinister bloody
and there was a barn! There's a barn.
And there was a big bushy beard.
And there's a man with a great big bushy beard.
Overall, I enjoyed it, Michael. I'll probably have to read a bit more of it now to kind of...
Look,
I have to reread it now, Michael.
I strongly think it's worth reading twice, for sure.
Smack myself on the wrist.
I liked it, Ben. I didn't love it.
That's fair enough.
I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
I like the influences. I liked sitting down and going, there's meat to this. There are delicious, tasty ideas in this, which I love the idea of. I walked around the corner.
And there was a big bushy beard.
Big bushy beard. But I love the idea. I love that supernatural bit about walking around the corner and a huge structure that's not normally there is there.
Who the fuck put that there?
And your brain just goes, oh!
I often enjoy that in other things where they walk into an apartment and they slowly start to realize it's not their apartment. It should be, but it isn't. I can't remember what I saw that in, but I remember it being one of the most unnerving things I think it might have been an animated short I saw at one point. I'll try and find it and link it down below. But it's a guy who walks into his apartment and slowly starts to realize that it is his apartment.
But there's something wrong.
But it's not his apartment.
Oh, very good. I
There's
like that.
something wrong with the apartment.
I like
and he can't
that,
figure out what it is.
That tickles my mystery bone.
Yeah.
Now, what... So, yeah, I really like that. I think that's a very good shout you said earlier about the SCP stuff and the creepypasta stuff.
I think it's hugely influenced by that.
There was that SCP Pirates Cove or something about...
Oh, that's
do you remember that
so
one?
Weird.
Oh, I love that weird memory.
The demented
what's real,
children's show.
What's real, what's awful. All very good. But, and this is the big but, because I like big buts.
And Mick can't lie.
But the big but of it is, I don't know if I would necessarily be jumping to get the next one to find out what's going on.
Yeah, it's slow. It's a very slow comic.
I'm happy enough with the concepts and the spookiness of what's going on. I don't see a need to go, I need to know what's going on, though. I could never read the next volume of this, and I'd be fine with that.
Okay. That's fair enough.
It's not. I'm not. You see, I'm not saying I don't want to read the next volume.
But I'm saying if you didn't,
you'd
be grand.
Yeah, I'd be grand. I'm not terribly pushed to solve this mystery.
Well, the characterization is poor.
The characterization isn't. I wouldn't say poor.
We don't
it's just
care
a little
about
bit
those
generic.
people. Yeah, we don't care about those people very much. I think this is much more tone heavy.
Yeah.
Than plot heavy.
Yeah.
And I think as a tone experiment, groovy.
Yeah.
I think as a keep you hooked kind of gig,
maybe not so much.
Nah.
Ben, what would you recommend to people if they enjoyed this other than Jeff Lemire's The Black Hammer?
Well, if you're looking for more, yeah, fair enough, we can't recommend that one at all.
Well, we can. Why can we not recommend that?
No, well, without being too on the nose, if you enjoy Andrea Sorrentino's art, he did a fantastic run on Green Arrow with Jeff Lemire.
Oh, really?
Probably the best Green Arrow story of the last 15 years.
Is it all scratchy?
No, that texture exists only in Gideon Falls. Okay. The other one is traditionally heavy black, nice, solid black colours for shadows and lines.
This looks like it hasn't been inked.
In a way, yeah, it's an unfinished thing.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's that texture that he's gone for. But look. I couldn't tell you. I don't know Andrea Sorrentino.
It's an experiment. I don't know.
Andrea Sorrentino is an Italian artist, by the way, which sets him apart from a lot of American artists.
That's
it's very, very different to this kind of thing. And he's much more experimental. You'll notice he does weird storytelling things where he'll highlight a character with a red circle or a square or something like that.
I did notice that.
When he wants to draw attention. He also did Old Man Logan, the independent series of the original, the Mark Millar one. Old Man Logan had his own, independent of... the main Old Man Logan story by Mark Millar. So Mark Millar created the character of Old Man Logan.
Yes.
And then Jeff Lemire was given his own miniseries with it.
Oh.
With Andrea Sorrentino. So this, independent of the
Andrea
original. Andrea
Sorrentino is one of Jeff Lemire's main collaborators.
Seems to be.
He's not the artist of Black Hammer, is he?
No, he's not. No. I think that is... I'm not sure who that is, but I don't think it's Andrea Sorrentino. I could be wrong.
The colorist on Black Hammer Streets of Spiral, Ben, is named...
it is Dave Stewart. Dave Stewart's the colorist on
Black Hammer.
Black Hammer.
That's who it is. And then, funnily enough, Ben, the colorist on Black Hammer Streets of Spiral is someone called Lennox. Is it Annie Lennox?
Is it
Dave
Annie
Stewart's
Lennox?
wife?
Is that what they do after...
Emmy Lennox? It's probably her daughter. No, that Dave Stewart isn't Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Where Are the Eurythmics Now?
This is Black Barn-esque. Like, who is Dave Stewart? Is he real?
If you're looking for more horror vibes, a lot of the early Vertigo horror comics would probably satiate your need.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, if you're looking to be a little bit more thrifty on that wallet, go check out the SCP Foundation.
Yeah, it's free.
Or Reddit
Creepypasta.
Or Creepypasta. Take a look at any of them.
What are we going to do In 2 weeks' time, Ben.
In 2 weeks' time, Michael, we'll be taking a look at the brand new reboot from Jason Aaron. Not
Jason
Jeff
Aaron,
Lemire.
yes.
Jason Aaron, which is the Conan the Barbarian reboot. Not a reboot, but a continuation.
I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll talk about it.
The latest edition, the 2017 series, no, 2018?
18, I think.
2018 series of Conan by Jason Aaron.
I think it's called The Life and Death of Conan.
Life and Death of Conan.
Volume 1.
Anyway, check it out, pick it up, and we'll talk to you again in 2 weeks here on Collecting Issues. If you haven't had enough of us and you want to see a bit more of us, you can check us out on our website and keep up to date with everything new that we're doing, seomrabeag.com, seomrabeag.com.
Means tiny room in Irish.
This will be the first podcast since we've changed the name on the Instagram. So now if you're looking for us, you can just find us on Sean Rabeag on Instagram. We often have fan polls, questions, things like that, so you can get involved and chat to us there.
Fan is a bit of a strong word.
Occasional listener poll. If you have something that you'd like covered on Collecting Issues, you can suggest it to us and our ideas. If you're listening to us here on Spotify, give us an L follow. If you're listening to us here on YouTube, give us an L comment, like, and subscribe.
No one listens to this on YouTube.
If you're listening to us here on Apple Podcasts, give us an L review. We need that review, guys. It gives us an L boost right on up the listening ladder.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to us somewhere else, let us know. We don't know where you're listening to us.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Give us a shout. What the hell? That's it from us for this week, guys. Thanks a million for listening. Bye.
See you in 2 weeks. Bye.